Hey guys, how's it going? It's your boy MKS here. Sorry, I hope the camera angle's good enough. I know people often tell me that you can't see my head properly, so please forgive me for that one. But I suppose most important is the message I'm delivering, I suppose. But yeah, as ever, I'd love to hear your opinions. And before I take the dog for a walk, I thought I'd talk about continue on with my ideas. This is the fourth and final part of what I would dream for the AU, i.e. African Union, to work on or do, and that kind of thing together, and what sort of things I hope to encourage. And I was thinking for the intro today that I think it'd be good if they encourage women's rights, women empowerment in like politics, business, and tech. Although, if I'm honest, I do think there is a price to it, because a lot of people saying, I don't know if I should say this point, it's a bit off topic, but a lot of people say that like with feminism or women's rights, empowerment and things like that, a lot of the complaints of modern men are that women they change a lot of the rules, but they still expect men to provide. And I think that is quite difficult if you're going to earn more money, to find a partner who has more money. But anyway, that's a side note and it's a controversial topic. So I just thought I'd get that out of the way. But I think there is a price to it if women do well. But it would be good if they fundraise for things like She Leads Africa, the Lioness of Africa. And I talked before in part 3, point number 27, about how I think they should acknowledge those who have contributed to Africa, and that could include people who support women and girls education, training, things like in areas like STEM and politics and business and things like that. And like She Leads Africa, the Lioness of Africa. And I think it'd be cool if those organizations, they help women, but I think it'd be cool if they helped people from the youngest possible age. I often think that the best time to start something, dare I say, is now, and then to improve, or not make it perfect, but keep continuing to improve it, because I suppose nothing is perfect, but making it as close to perfect as possible. But as I say, life is not. I think nothing in this world is perfect, in my opinion. So I'd love to hear your opinions on that and everything I say. And please forgive me if it's a bit of a controversial thing, but I do try and be honest, as I often say. So again, if you do have contrary opinions or thoughts or ideas, or anything you can add to my ideas, most importantly for benefiting Africa, and my only benefit would be I'd feel good to do so, and it's a great way to tackle white supremacy, perhaps, I suppose, in my opinion. But anyway, here goes. So I forgot to say almost that I know I've gone on a bit for the intro, but in parts 1, 2, and 3, I talk more generally about my general ideas and thoughts. In this one, just like I've been doing recently, part 4 to symbolize I'm 40, so it's like 10 ideas for each one, so it's 40 ideas. I wish to focus more on how to attract investment. South Africa has an investment conference. I can't remember when it is, but it's every year. I think it's already gone this. Obviously, we're in December, but they have an investment conference to encourage investment. And I think it'd be great if they had summits, conferences, and events. Some of them online, some of them offline. So like encouraging people to go and travel to parts of Africa. Again, that can encourage tourism. They invest in the country. They buy from local businesses and support local businesses, small businesses, SMEs, startups, SMEs, and that sort of thing, and all sorts of projects across Africa. But yeah, so to encourage the biggest possible companies. And anyway, I think the intro's gone on long enough, so I'm going to crack on with the list because I don't want the video to be too long, as I want to say. But please do leave any comments, including answering the question, what are the best ways to encourage investment into Africa or support Africa generally? So here goes. So number 31, as I was talking about like South Africa and how they have the inaugural, it's a big word for me, I think that means annual, not 100% sure, you can tell me what inaugural means in the comments section as well if you know it. But they have that investment, I think it's annually, which encourages investment from around the world. I'm not sure who's involved in it, but I know Jack Ma from Alibaba is one of the people involved. So it'd be great, as I say, to encourage as much investment as possible. I know companies are investing, but I hope they continue to invest and invest even more. And a while back, talking about South Africa, there was an incident where I don't know 100% about the story, but I think the head of Nike some people call it Nike, in South Africa was involved in a racist incident, which is a word that he used a word that they use in South Africa to demean black people. It's a bit like the N-word, probably, I assume, but they have it specifically in South Africa. So he used that word, and there was like riots and things like that. But I think that's sort of South Africans kicking themselves in a way, or shooting themselves in the foot, or biting off their own nose to spite the face, or whatever they call it, cutting off their own nose to spite the face, or whatever the saying is. um, throwing the baby out with the bathwater, or whatever term you want to use, because I think that's important to have companies like Nike because of the investment opportunity. Even though there might be a few people there who are racist, I think that's a really bad thing. But I think instead they should be working with Nike, Adidas, Puma, and all sorts of companies, obviously in different areas, superstores like Sainsbury's, Asda, Walmart, which owns Asda, Tesco's here in the UK, and all sorts of companies around the world, all sorts of superstores, to try and go there and create investments. Look at like empty buildings and how they can make use of them. They could be artists working in those areas and things like that. But yeah, I think they shouldn't really kick out companies because of a few racist incidents, because it still in the longer term will mean the investments in jobs and the economy generally won't be as good. So I think instead they should work with the CEOs, because I imagine Nike could be a racist company, but I hope not. Obviously, I hope these companies are not racist, but some of the people who work on that, instead, I think they should be looking at how to get a black person to manage Nike, Adidas, and other companies like that in South Africa and across Africa. So they have their own branches which have more black managers as well, CEOs, MDs, managing directors, that is, chairmen, chairwomen, and things like that. Moving on, 32, I would love for Central Africa, again, as I've been talking about, to mainly have these events, so they could host events that talk about uniting Africa, to making peace in Africa. How that encourage tourism, instead of destroying things, building things, how people, even if they're from different religious groups, can work together like Rwanda does, where it talks about, in their case, the tribal system. It talks about not mentioning yourself as different tribes. You have to mention yourself as Rwandans first. And so they managed to alleviate a lot of the conflicts that they had, obviously, with the Rwandan genocide and things like that. Unfortunately, that happened in the past. But I think Paul Kagame, as far as I'm aware, I know he has his critics, but I think he has done some really good work. I hope they do allow press freedom. I know he's been criticised for that, but again, to unite Africa and to try and encourage people to be positive about Africa. Number 33, I love for Africa to celebrate each other's achievements and things like South Africa's Freedom Day, going back to South Africa again, that kind of thing. Number 34, again, how I'd love for them to talk about how peace and freedom and encouragement, sympathy and empathy and compassion can help all possible people in Africa to have better futures generally, if they support and encourage each other, have each other's backs, and be as united as possible. And also it will encourage investment and tourism and things like that. Again, I'd love to hear your opinion on that. Number 35, again, I'd love for companies like Microsoft, I.B.M, Apple, Google, and companies like that to be invited to Africa. And sometimes they can have Zoom meetings if they're unable to travel, like if they're busy, so they could do both Zoom and physical meetings, as in like round tables, or be invited and be given the red carpet to come and invest. Companies from all over the world, America, China, India, Russia, Brazil, Argentina, and all over the world to come to be invited. And again, companies specifically, as well as countries, even entire presidents, and like talking about their prime ministers and presidents, talking about how their companies can invest in Africa. I think that was number 35. Number 36, I'd love for Italian football to invest in, like, do fundraising games, matches, games and matches to invest, to encourage, to like sponsor African countries. So Italian football could do like fundraisers for She Leads Africa, the Lioness of Africa, Tech in Africa, and things like that. And a group I made on that note is like the one-stop place, or the one-stop shop for things to do with tech in Africa. That's one idea I had, to bring all of Africa together in technology, but it could be also for one-stop shop for all things to do with STEM. Which name do you prefer, the one-stop shop or the one-stop place? Maybe I do a poll on that in the future, so I can get people's different opinions about which name they prefer. I mean, when I say shop, I don't mean it's just the name. It's not actually. Oh, I could have a shop that fundraises as well. Number 37, I'd also love for Celtic to fundraise for them. Number 38, again, I'd love to have as many companies in Africa as possible. Like, I mean, I know they're already there, but I would love to encourage like Amazon, Apple, Alibaba, and companies like that to invest billions into Africa, into African startups, SMEs, and things like that, and be encouraged by governments there all across Africa, especially in Central Africa, and which again could look at, but also just all of Africa, all 54 or 55 countries, looking at what they have in common as well as what they have, their uniqueness, and what their similarities and differences are between each other, but how they can work together and look at more at what they have in common and but they could still keep their uniqueness, if that makes sense. Number 38, I'd love to have as many fundraising events as possible, and people from the Black diaspora, or people of color like myself and other minorities, can improve relations through looking at ways to fundraise for Africa. And again, hopefully that will encourage investment and it will, encourage investment, sponsoring things like fundraising for, and just generally sponsoring things like education, training, mentorship, and things like maybe people can even go and mentor again on Zoom. There could be Zoom chats like talking about these sort of topic. Like I'd love to make a Zoom chat on that note. I just thought as well, which could perhaps, if I can organize it, bring people from who are supporters of Africa, friends of Africa, and that sort of thing to talk about possibly hopefully involving the AU in many cases, but as many events as possible on Zoom. I might be cutting myself a bit thin in terms of time because I might be trying to take on too much, but it is an idea so to look into, hopefully in the future at some point within the next few years. I was going to say 5 to 10 years, but maybe hopefully before that, if not it's coming, or even in December itself, or this coming year. I know it's the end of the year at the moment, but to encourage people from the diaspora, friends of Africa, people of color, generally POC as I call us, or whatever, people of color, I put in speech marks for some reason, but people like who support Africa and want to see Africa do well, coming together on Zoom or on Skype or whatever opportunities we have. Some might want to do it on Saturday, some on Sunday, and some on Monday. Some have different days where perhaps they're off work, or basically whenever you have an opportunity, and trying to build this group together. So if people who are friends of Africa, from Africa themselves, if you're interested, I hope we can put that together. 39. Again, I think it'd be great to have an open exchange of ideas, and again, just find all possible ways to encourage investment into Africa, encourage companies to come invest in Africa, to invest billions in startups, SMEs, training for people, including young people, including women and girls, and disadvantaged communities, neurodiverse people, disabled people generally, people with physical, mental disabilities, and looking at the positive sides and what they can do. And again, encouraging sympathy and empathy. I think if we could cut as much violence in Africa as possible, I think that'd be great, including having animal rights that I talked before about. Maybe animal rights groups could also invest in Africa in return for better treatment. And I know there's projects already that talk about how to conserve animals for the future. But if they work with different companies and organizations, and hopefully make sure that the people who are involved do have Africa's interests at heart. And number 40 on that note, I knew there was something I almost forgot to say, and there are probably a few things I forgot to say. I'll blame my dyslexia for that one, but my memory problems and all that, or perhaps I want to, but or thinking too much of different ideas. But again, that's probably a dyslexic trait as well, which causes memory problems. But sorry, getting to the point, and I nearly forgot my chain of thought again. But damn it, I forgot my chain of thought. But damn it. Sorry, I was waffling away and I forgot my chain of thought. It would be great, as I say, to encourage as much investment as possible in people that have what's the best interests of Africa at heart. And I'll probably post it in the comment section because my brain, I've forgotten it. But to encourage investment into Africa, and look at how to encourage companies to go in there, maybe offer tax exemptions for doing so, maybe work with the international community. Could be part of reparations, which I've talked before about, like people could put their tax money into, maybe they could be like tax havens in return, so it encourages investment as long as it goes to the more poor people. And I think, again, I want to encourage Africans to believe that unity actually helps which will help. Unity will help people in the future, and if they don't treat each other bad and things like that. And I'm going to post in the comment section. Hopefully, I'll remember what I was going to say. But anywho, I think this video has gone on long enough. I didn't want it to go on for 13 minutes, so I decided, as I got to 13 minutes, I thought I'd make it a bit longer, to 14 minutes. Anywho, peace and love. I wish you a blessed day, and I am out.